This page is the front cover of the magazine and features Link and other characters from The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask prominently. It mentions a special book-in-book section focusing on Game Boy rewritable software. Featured articles inside include an interview with Shigesato Itoi, information on Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, details on GameCube Powerful Pro Yaku 2000, Power Pros Baseball 2000, Shigesato Itoi's #1 bass fishing, Definitive Edition, Biohazard Zero, and Card Hero. It is issue 5 of 2000, priced at 490 yen. This page showcases the box art for the Game Boy Color game Neketsu Buken Dungeon Card Battle, Grand Duel, or Grand Duel Deep Dungeons Secret Treasure in English. The box features an anime-style character holding a card and a small pink creature, with a large, shadowy monster lurking in the background. The text on the box highlights it as a Game Boy Color game and describes it as a passionate adventure dungeon card battle. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game Grand Duel Shinkoku no Saizen, a card battle RPG that was released only in Japan. The ad emphasizes the card battle gameplay against rivals and dungeon exploration to collect cards. It highlights that there are approximately 8,000 different types of cards in the game. The page also mentions an original goods present campaign and lists 3 prizes: a Grand Duel card battle basic set, a bottom-up tour, and a Grand Duel travel set. The game is priced at 4,500 yen and supports both Game Boy Color and regular Game Boy Link functionality. It is published by Bottom Up. This page is an advertisement for the Donkey Kong 64 feet 101% Clear Perfect Guidebook. It highlights the guidebook's detailed explanations, beautiful maps and fun columns, and points out the yellow cover as eye-catching. The guide promises complete strategy guide/walkthrough for Donkey Kong 64 in one book, featuring CG maps and detailed information on all courses, golden bananas, and bananas. It was scheduled for release on January 22nd at a price of 950 yen. The guidebook is published by MYCOM. This page is the contents page for the May 2000 issue, volume 44 of the magazine. The cover story, highlighted in a monologue section with a screenshot, is The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. The contents are categorized into general features, new game information, indignation information, strategy information, and project plans. Key articles include a long interview, a feature on Game Boy rewrite software, and returning GB content. The Game Index lists games covered in this issue across N64, Game Boy, Super Famicom, and 64DD platforms. N64 games mentioned include The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, GameCube Powerful Pro Yaku Professional Baseball 2000, Bass Fishing Surabito, #1 Kitaiban, Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2 Oni Invasion, Bureau, Shiren Castle, Nushitsuri 64, Shiokaze ni Note, Biohazard Zero, Resident Evil 0, Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2, Card Hero, Giant Graham, All Japan Pro Wrestling 2 in Nippon Budokan, Saru, Get You, Star Ocean, Blue Sphere, Perfect Choro Q, Puzzle Loop, Puzzle Bobble 4, Puyo Puyon Pocket 2, Picross NP Volume 7, Bikuriman 2000 Charging Card GB, Billiard Club, Bugs Bunny and Crazy Castle 4, Hamster Paradise 2, Poppin' Music GB, Rayman 2, The Great Escape, and Wario Land 3. The page also lists regular columns, such as Reader Question Corners, Monthly News, Development Diaries, Software Release Calendars, Rankings, Software Catalogs, and articles on enjoying N64 further. A screenshot from The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask is shown at the bottom right. The April N64 game release calendar highlights Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, as the main feature, emphasizing its long-awaited release after early anticipation. News includes the launch of the Mother 3 homepage, hinting at a summer release, and a potential, but likely spring, delay for GameCube Powerful Pro Yaku 2000s. Upcoming releases include Kirby 64, March 24th, Satoshi Tajiri's Bugcatcher #1 and Daikatana, March 31st, Ganbare Goemon, Mononoke Sugoroku, April 7th, and the F-Zero X expansion kit for LandNet DD members, The calendar also lists numerous other game releases throughout April, encompassing various genres. This page showcases two N64 game rankings from a Japanese magazine, Dream Ranking Top 20, which highlights anticipated upcoming titles, and this month's Selling N64 Software Top 10, which lists the best-selling games. In the Dream Ranking Top 20, The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, claims the top spot, followed by Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, at number 2. Super Mario RPG 2, which would be later known as Paper Mario, is in third place, and Mother 3, The End of the Earth, is at number 4, both noted as tentative titles. Biohazard Zero, known internationally as Resident Evil Zero, debuts in 5th position. Other games in the Dream Ranking include Real Powerful Pro Baseball 2000, Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2, Perfect Dark, and Fire Emblem 64. The Selling Software Top 10 chart is topped by Donkey Kong 64 and Mario Party 2. Custom Robo, Super Smash Bros., and Bomberman 64 also feature in the top 5. Further down the list, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, GoldenEye 007, Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2, Super Robot Wars 64, and Pokémon Stadium 2 are also listed as top sellers. An accompanying text section highlights the strong debut of Biohazard Zero in the Dream Ranking, noting its popularity and surpassing of Power Pro 2000, and briefly mentions the previous release of Biohazard 2. A March reader survey reveals Game Boy-related rankings. The NP Writing Request Hope Ranking Soft Top 20 lists games desired on Nintendo Power, with Pokemon Gold/Silver, Pokemon Red/Green/Blues Pikachu, and Donkey Kong GB at the top. The GB Port Request Hope Soft Top 20 details desired ports from Famicom/Super Famicom, including Mother, Dragon Quest IV, and Super Mario Kart. The GB Advance Desired Color Top 20 shows clear blue as the most desired Game Boy Advance color. Gold/Silver. New Pokemon Popularity Top 20 ranks new Pokemon from Pokemon Gold/Silver, with Pichu, Lugia, and Wooper leading. Finally, this Selling GB Soft Top 10 ranks the top 10 best-selling Game Boy games from February 7th to March 5th, with Pokemon Silver and Gold at the top. This page showcases The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, emphasizing its unique nature compared to Ocarina of Time, while still appealing to fans of the series. The page highlights the return of Malon and the importance of Romani Ranch, a key location. Screenshots, particularly of Romani Ranch, illustrate gameplay differences. Mal, described as the older sister in dialogue, discusses the ranch's legacy and her role, including a bow. The text also references the Epona song from Ocarina of Time in relation to the Romani cows and milk. A game information box confirms the title, publisher, Nintendo, April 27th release, pricing details, and genre. A single-player 3D action RPG that requires the Memory Expansion Pack and is compatible with the Rumble Pack. This page is about the Nintendo 64 game The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and focuses on horse-riding aspects within the game. It highlights that in a different ranch, Link encounters people and suggests they might be the Ingo brothers. It mentions that in the game's world, the clothes colors are original, but in a Space World demo, the clothes were white and aristocratic-like. The page questions if they are twin brothers, and whether they can be met. The text boxes in the screenshots show dialogue, with one character saying, "What? Who are you?" Another box talks about Lon Lon Ranch milk, emphasizing its deliciousness and value. There's a section titled, "Whip with Carrots," explaining that a two-player race starts, and eventually, Child Link can ride a horse, implying it's not a pony yet. Another section, "Aim for this," mentions talking to the sister, starting a minigame challenge, hitting targets with arrows within the time limit, and describes it as a target shooting game. It questions the purpose of this practice. The section, "Remember Big Pose," compares the gameplay feel to hunting Big Pose in Hyrule Field, similar to the Gerudo Fortress scenario. It mentions that the targets are Big Pose in the ranch, floating up and down, and they are shot with arrows using carrots as whips, similar to the previous game controls. The B button is used for shooting arrows. This page introduces the Zora Band from a Zelda game, asking if Link will debut as a musician. It mentions that game screenshots are being released monthly. The text suggests the music is as good as in Majora's Mask. It shows that Link, as the player, can participate in the band's performances. The page highlights 4 band members: a keyboard player, a bassist, a drummer, and a vocalist. It mentions the vocal character is a woman from the sea, similar to Zora Link in Ocarina of Time. It also introduces a new type of Dekuba enemy, different from those previously encountered, described as a water-dwelling type. The page implies the band's instruments and designs are unique. The next page highlights gameplay strategies in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The first section, Deku Flower Dive, explains how to use Deku flowers to launch Link into the air by diving into them and pressing A again to fly, emphasizing this as essential for dungeons with significant height differences. The Deku Nuts Tribe section shows various enemies, including musical instrument-playing enemies like a guitar and keyboard player, and demonstrates combat scenarios. The Cold Dungeon Goron section describes a dungeon area with a chilling atmosphere reminiscent of the Ice Cavern, focusing on the Goron tribe and their frozen plight due to the cold. The final section, Pinch Continuous Goro, details combat tactics as Goron Link in a snowy environment, advising players to use punches and rolling attacks effectively against enemies in this cold zone, as Goron Link is vulnerable to cold and needs to keep moving and attack quickly to avoid freezing. This page introduces key characters and gameplay elements. Sword combat is central, featuring various techniques within a training dojo, including the Master Sword, and the narrative unfolds near a carnival with a moonfall imminent in 3 days. Players will meet characters like Uncle Bombshop, selling unique bombshinks in a desert, and Tingle, a superpowered, eccentric character crucial to the story, with a memorable clown face. Abnormal weather patterns are connected to the falling moon. Other characters include Dance Uncle and Water Vein Doctor, who researches unsettling water phenomena. A time-telling guard soldier appears in Hyrule Castletown. The page concludes by emphasizing Tingle's importance, highlighting his fairy-like nature, hand-drawn map, and clock, portraying him as a significant and possibly overzealous character. This page delves into the world of what appears to be The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, showcasing various aspects of the game. It highlights a secret place for tiny children, where a password is required to enter, and hints at interactions with townspeople. There's a mention of a name change for fairies, initially called Vel and Mond, now referred to as Fairy Sisters, suggesting a change during development. The page discusses a decision the player must make about remaining or fleeing, referencing the mayor and his office in town during a carnival and a falling moon scenario. The Big Carpenter's Four Brothers section touches upon their unique dialect and dialogue. A character called Bomb Chew Bowling Auntie, who works in the mayor's office, is also featured. Finally, it mentions Stall Kid and this month's enemy character, hinting at gameplay and enemy encounters. The page concludes with a countdown, stating 37 days until the adventure begins, likely counting down to the game's release. This page is a preview article for The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. It's presented by characters called Love Goron and Hate Goron, who are discussing the game before its release. The release date is highlighted as April 27th, just before Golden Week. The article discusses how Majora's Mask is different from Ocarina of Time, being shorter in development time, but aiming for a different kind of gameplay experience. It mentions that the game is a parallel world to Ocarina of Time, and the gameplay revolves around a 3-day time limit before the moon falls. They talk about the game's unique system where time progresses and events happen in a cycle, requiring the player to manage time and solve problems within that constraint. The article also touches upon how the game is not a simple sequel like Super Mario Bros., and is aiming for a different kind of depth and world exploration, contrasting it to games where you might just play minigames. The characters discuss Miyamoto's comments on the game, suggesting it's a more in-depth and darker Zelda experience compared to Ocarina of Time and its Golden Age atmosphere. They mention that the game world feels more serious and requires players to explore deeply within the 3-day limit. Majora's Mask builds upon Ocarina of Time's time mechanics, emphasizing mask-based gameplay. Masks are central, transforming Link's appearance and abilities, even changing the ocarina into different instruments. The game features returning races like Zora, Deku, and Gorons, and these races will be tied to the 3 main types of masks. Characters, even those from Ocarina of Time, take on new roles, with minor characters playing larger parts. The game's design centers on a limited time frame over several in-game days, deeply integrated into gameplay. This system is designed to keep the masks at the forefront of the experience. The game is set to release in Japan on April 27th, with preview content highlighting gameplay with Deku Link and Goron Link. The development team focused on creating a unique gameplay system distinct from its predecessor. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. It highlights the pink nature of Kirby and mentions that spring has arrived, associating the season with cherry blossom viewing and sweet treats like Sakura Mochi. The text emphasizes that Kirby is finally here and ready for release. Game details on the right side panel list the title as Hoshi no Kirby 64, Kirby of the Stars 64, the publisher as Nintendo, the release date as March 24th, the price as 6,800 yen, the genre as action, the number of players as 1, and notes vibration pack compatibility. The bottom text exclaims, "Full bloom! Pink Kirby front is sweeping through Japan!" indicating the game's launch and popularity. The page features artwork of Kirby with characters like Adeline, King Dade, and Ribbon. This page is about Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. It introduces the game as an easy-to-play action game. The goal in Kirby 64 is to collect crystal shards scattered across various planets and stages. Kirby's actions are described as being rooted in classic games, but enhanced for the N64 controller, with simple controls using the D-pad and A-B buttons. New actions introduced for the N64 version include Lift Up, where Kirby can inhale enemies and lift them, and Ability Mix, allowing players to combine two inhaled abilities for new powers. The page shows examples of basic actions like jumping and inhaling, as well as the new features of lifting enemies, copying abilities from enemies, and mixing two abilities together. It also mentions that once a stage is cleared, it can be revisited to mix abilities and prepare for boss battles. This page is all about Kirby's Dream Land 3 and the mix ability. It explains how to mix abilities together to create new and stronger attacks. The page details the process of copying an ability, turning it into a star, lifting up Kirby, and throwing the star at an enemy to mix the abilities. It highlights that by mixing abilities, the attack range becomes wider and more powerful. Examples of mixed abilities are shown, including Bomb Mix, Spark Mix, and Cutter Mix, with screenshots illustrating how these abilities work in the game, such as the Bomb Mix creating a large explosion and the Cutter Mix creating a light sword. It encourages players to experiment with different ability combinations to find effective strategies against enemies. This page from the magazine showcases the ability mixing system in the Nintendo 64 game, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. It's a guide explaining how combining two abilities creates new and unique powers for Kirby. The page details several base abilities like Burning, Stone, Ice, Needle, Bomb, Spark, and Cutter, each shown with screenshots of their standard form and then examples of mixed abilities. For instance, mixing Burning with another ability creates fire-based attacks like a Flame Wheel and Flame Sword. Similarly, mixing Stone results in variations like a volcanic eruption attack or a curling stone ability. The guide explains that even visually different abilities might result in the same mixed effect, using Burning and Ice as examples of abilities that function similarly in mixes. This page introduces Level 1 of Popstar in Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, focusing on the adventure with friends. It highlights the objective of collecting crystal shards hidden within the stages. The page showcases stage progression, starting with the first stage, which is a practice area to master Kirby's basic moves and ability combinations. It mentions that familiar characters will appear as enemies as stages advance, such as Adore in the second stage, and King Divide in the third stage, hinting at his potential to become an ally. Finally, it introduces Wispy Woods as the boss of Level 1, explaining the strategy to defeat him by inhaling apples and attacking his roots, and suggesting the use of abilities for a more powerful offense. The next page focuses on Level 2 of Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, called Holobita Star, and poses the question of what ability mix to use against the tough final boss. It introduces King Day as Kirby's friend, highlighting that despite being rivals, he becomes a reliable ally in adventures. The page then details each of the 4 stages of Holobita Star. The first stage is described as one where abilities are lost, encouraging players to copy abilities from enemies to progress. The second stage features various stage gimmicks, like falling pillars, and advises players to proceed cautiously. The third stage involves lift-up gameplay, where sandberries and players fall downwards. The fourth stage emphasizes careful Kirby flight maneuvers, warning about unexpected large objects, and noting it leads to the boss battle. Finally, the page introduces the boss of Holobita Star, Pinix, describing it as a 3-in-1 entity. It warns players that Pinix movements are tricky, and advises caution during the fight. The screenshots give hints on how to defeat Pinix by attacking with elemental models and avoiding spike attacks. This page is about Level 3, Ururun's Star, in Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. The page details the 4 stages of this water-themed level. Stage 1 is a beach setting, where players should enjoy the scenery, but enemies will disrupt any relaxing thoughts. Stage 2 is a precarious suspension bridge stage, where the bridge might collapse under Kirby's weight, so caution is advised. Stage 3 is set on a sandy beach, with sudden giant scissors emerging from the sand, posing a threat to Kirby. Stage 4 is an underwater walking stage, where Kirby must navigate careful movements in the water currents. The boss of this level is Acro, a giant shark who attacks with various patterns. It's recommended to use the Needle ability against Acro in close combat, and if you don't have it, obtain it in Level 1 before attempting this stage. This page highlights minigames from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It introduces 3 minigames: Kenken Race, which is a hopping race to the goal where players must avoid water puddles and frogs while using the A and B buttons to jump. Toru Toru Battle is about catching falling food in a basket, where players move their character to catch food and can interfere with opponents. Finally, Ochi Ochi Fight is a game where players drop floor tiles to make their opponents fall, described as a simple yet addictive game. The page emphasizes the multiplayer aspect of these minigames, allowing up to 4 players to compete. It also features Waddle Dee as Kirby's friend. This page is an advertisement for GameCube Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000 on Nintendo 64. It announces the upcoming release of the game, stating that the release date has been slightly delayed, but will be soon. The game is highlighted as featuring the 12 professional baseball teams and emphasizes thorough analysis of the previous pro baseball season's strengths. The game is listed as a sports genre for 1 to 2 players, with a price of 7,800 yen, and mentions it is compatible with the 64 GB POC. The advertisement features cartoonish baseball player characters and imagery associated with baseball. This page is showcasing the social adult arc in the game GB Power Pro Pocket 2 for Game Boy. It introduces this game mode, explaining that players will experience the life of a working adult within the baseball context. The page shows different scenarios and gameplay elements, like choosing a company to work for, training, and managing work alongside baseball. It highlights that even though it's the social adult arc, baseball is still at its core. Screenshots display gameplay scenes, character interactions, and menus from this mode, including player stats and in-game items. The page emphasizes the game's release date, March 30th, and price, 4,800 yen, for the Game Boy. It also mentions it's a sports genre game for 1 player and supports communication cables for multiplayer. This page is a special feature on professional baseball teams and tactics within a baseball game, likely for the N64. It covers 3 teams: Fukuoka Daiei Hawks, Cebu Lions, and Oryx Blue Wave, providing insights into each team's strengths and weaknesses within the game. For the Fukuoka Daiei Hawks, the point is how to cover the gap left by a missing ace pitcher with young pitchers. It mentions using the pitching staff to cover this weakness. For the Cebu Lions, the point is to leverage the power of the batting lineup, highlighting it as the strongest aspect and emphasizing draft picks as crucial. It talks about focusing on their powerful batting lineup. For the Oryx Blue Wave, the point is how to effectively use Ichiro, suggesting he is indispensable to the team's strategy and should be the starting point for building the batting lineup. It emphasizes building the lineup around Ichiro. This page is about baseball game strategies in the Pacific League, likely for an N64 baseball game. It features 3 teams: Chiba Lotte Marines, Nippon Ham Fighters, and Kintetsu Buffaloes. For the Chiba Lotte Marines, the focus is on leveraging the powerful batting lineup of Kuroki and Ishii. For the Nippon Ham Fighters, the point is to see if the team can respond to the new manager Oshima with renewed vigor. For the Kintetsu Buffaloes, the chance lies in the young pitchers of the new Kurita regime. Each team section includes details about pitcher and fielder lineups and strategies, along with screenshots from the game. This page from the magazine seems to be previewing strategies for baseball games, focusing on 3 professional Japanese baseball teams: the Chunichi Dragons, Yomiuri Giants, and Yokohama Bay Stars. For the Chunichi Dragons, the focus is on where foreign player reinforcements will be placed, particularly highlighting the importance of choosing a closing pitcher from their deep pitching roster. The Yomiuri Giants section discusses how to construct a connected batting lineup to effectively score runs, emphasizing player selection for the batting order. Lastly, The Yokohama BayStars section centers around boosting their power hitting and overall mobility, noting the importance of adding stable players to both their batting lineup and pitching staff. Each team section includes tables listing player names, positions, and stats, suggesting in-depth game strategy analysis. This page is a sports page analyzing 3 Central League baseball teams: Yakult Swallows, Hiroshima Toyo Carp, and Hanshin Tigers. Each team's page features sections for players and pitchers that look like they are presented in a video game-style format, with stats and player names listed in tables. The page analyzes team strategies, player strengths and weaknesses, and key points for each team in a baseball context. The style of presentation is reminiscent of baseball video games from the N64 era, using game-like stat boxes and layouts, but it is not directly reviewing or previewing any specific N64 baseball game titles. This page introduces Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition for the N64. This is touted as an authentic bass fishing game for the console. It was released on March 31st for 6,800 yen, and it's a single-player fishing game compatible with the Vibration Pack and the Fishing Controller 64. The page highlights that players can enjoy real fishing experiences with dedicated controllers and immersive environments. It talks about setting up the game by choosing names, conditions, and fishing types, and there are different lake conditions like beginner, normal, and confident angler, and fishing types such as daily, student, and holiday angler, which affect gameplay and item collection. The game also includes a base fishing terminology dictionary to help newcomers understand the jargon. The screenshots showcase in-game scenes and menus. The game aims to be an in-depth fishing simulation experience for the N64. It mentions different types of bass, including largemouth and smallmouth bass, and the best fishing season is from May to November, starting in-game from May 1st. Lures and rods are briefly explained as game elements. This page is a guide on how to understand the screen interface for a fishing game, likely for the N64 game Bass Rush Dream Fishing Tournament. Although the English title was not released outside of Japan, it breaks down the screen elements into 2 sections: Beforecast and Aftercast. The Beforecast section details elements like the weather, date, time, water temperature, wind direction, and casting cursor. It explains that these conditions are always changing and help determine where the bass might be located. The Aftercast section describes the distance meter, depth gauge, lure window, partner, and drag. It explains that the distance meter shows the distance to the lure, the depth gauge shows the lure's depth, the lure window displays the lure's action, the partner's expression changes, and the drag is adjustable to manage line tension when fighting a fish. The page serves as a tutorial for new players on how to read the information displayed on the game screen to improve their fishing strategy. The next page is a guide for the N64 game Bass Rush Dream Fishing. It's focused on the basics, titled, "Let's do tackle and check," advising players to properly check their fishing gear before starting. The page explains how to select lures using the tackle box and emphasizes understanding lure characteristics. It guides players on finding good fishing spots on a large map and casting techniques. The guide also covers recognizing when a fish bites and the importance of timing the hook set, also known as aways. Screenshots show the game's menu interfaces for tackle and lures, along with in-game views of fishing from a boat. The page also includes a glossary of fishing terms, like cast, casting, atari, bite, aways, hookset, angler, field, ireki, electric motor, drag, line, and rig. This page is about the game Bass Masters Classic for the N64, which was released in Japan. It highlights the various events and features available in the game's Surizuki Village setting. The page details the thrill of fighting a bass, emphasizing the importance of drag control to prevent the line from breaking when reeling in a big catch. It introduces key locations and activities within Surizuki Village, such as the clubhouse, where players can join events and change fishing styles using donguri acorns. The shop allows players to purchase fishing gear with donguri, and it's advised to check regularly for sales. Fishing competitions pit players against in-game characters to catch the biggest bass within a time limit. The page also mentions a special gift for players of both the Super Famicom and N64 versions of the game, and encourages players to experience the game with the dedicated Suricon 64 fishing controller for a more immersive fishing feel. Furthermore, it explains essential fishing techniques, like using worms or hard lures, retrieving the lure by reeling, and the option to catch and release fish. It also touches upon the concept of catching unintended fish, referred to as gerdo, noting that while it can be disappointing, it's part of the fishing experience. This page is dedicated to the Nintendo 64 game, Furai no Shiren 2. Fushigi no Dungeon, also known as Shiren the Wanderer 2. Mysterious Dungeon. It highlights key gameplay elements, like the scroll of identification, used to reveal the properties of items, and bracelets, which are equipment worn on the arm. The page notes that in this sequel, players can equip 2 bracelets, unlike the previous game where only one was possible. An example given is the recovery bracelet, which restores health as you walk. The page also introduces the Oni tribe as the antagonists in Shiren the Wanderer 2. These Oni are described as a destructive force that attacks villages, forcing the player to help villagers by potentially building a castle to defend against them. The game is described as the latest entry in the Mysterious Dungeon series, promising a challenging but addictive experience where players will face important items and the Oni tribe. The release date is stated as Spring 2000 and the genre as Dungeon RPG for 1 player. This page introduces the minigame called Kakuchiku from Legend of the River King 64. Kakuchiku is described as a simple board game within the Legend of the River King world, based on the Japanese word kakutori, meaning territorial acquisition. It is a competitive game where players try to outmaneuver each other to win territory and points. The page explains the basic rules of Kakuchiku, highlighting its simple controls but strategic depth. There are 3 types of pieces, numbered 1, 2, and 3, and the aim is to capture pieces by surrounding them, similar to Othello. The game board in beginner mode is 5x5, and advanced mode is 7x7. Different levels of difficulty are mentioned, beginner and advanced. Achieving victory marks are described, such as Kakuchiku Master, achieved by getting 8 wins, and Kakuchiku Grandmaster for 10 wins. Screenshots illustrate gameplay examples, demonstrating how to capture pieces and different game situations. The page explains that higher numbers capture lower numbers, and diagonal moves are also possible for captures. It emphasizes strategic thinking and planning ahead to secure victory in Kakuchiku. Finally, it mentions that Kakuchiku is just a minigame within the larger Legend of the River King 64 game, which offers a more relaxed and enjoyable fishing experience from Hokkaido to Hawaii. The release of Legend of the River King 64 Riding the Tide is imminent. This page focuses on Biohazard Zero, known internationally as Resident Evil Zero, which is being previewed for the Nintendo 64. The article title is Investigating the Story from Zero. It positions Biohazard Zero as the beginning of the Resident Evil saga, a prequel that reveals the origin story. The page details the series relationship and characters, showing how Biohazard Zero connects to other games in the series, such as the original Biohazard, Resident Evil, Biohazard 3, Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2, Biohazard Gun Survivor, and Biohazard Code, Veronica. Each game's story is briefly summarized, including key characters like Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen in Biohazard Zero, and Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, and Claire Redfield in the other titles. The N64 version of Biohazard Zero is highlighted as a survival horror game developed by Capcom. Release and price are listed as undecided. It's noted as supporting 1 player and being compatible with the Rumble Palk and Memory Expansion Palk. Screenshots showcase Rebecca in a train environment, engaging in action against zombies. The text emphasizes that Biohazard Zero explores secrets and events not previously revealed in the series, positioning it as the true starting point of the Resident Evil narrative. This page summarizes the first 2 Resident Evil games. Resident Evil, released in 1998, follows Alpha Team, Chris, Jill, Barry, Brad, Joseph, Wesker, investigating a mansion after Bravo Team, Enrico, Richard, Forrest, Kenneth, Rebecca, goes missing. The game utilized live-action footage in its opening. Resident Evil 2 features zombie Brad despite his supposed death in Resident Evil 3. The N64 version's EX files and drama albums add story elements, especially concerning Resident Evil Zero, expanding lore beyond the games. The page hints at Ada's presence aiding Sherry. Bravo team member deaths, attributed to Umbrella's bioweapons, led to the mansion's destruction. Side stories and drama albums reveal Ada's escape and Sherry's experiences. The drama albums, The Woman Who Lived Spy, Ada, and Little Fugitive Sherry, specifically explore these events. This Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2 strategy guide focuses on escaping the laboratory in the Nintendo 64 version. The guide highlights the need to restore power by finding the main fuse. Players can find useful items, like first aid sprays and anti-bow gas, obtained via computer, in the West Area break room, the latter influencing later enemy encounters. The guide also mentions that a lighter or flame weapon is recommended to traverse the ventilation duct. Finding the research facility map in the B5F monitor room is essential. Effective weapons against IVs include flame rounds, Claire, and the incendiary grenade launcher, Leon. The guide also touches upon the game's story, including the T-virus outbreak, the roles of Leon, Claire, Ada, and Sherry, and the Umbrella Corporation's research, and their relationship to Sherry's father William Birkin and the G-virus. The guide also notes scenario differences and important locations. This page details Resident Evil 2's gameplay, focusing on key objectives within the laboratory. Leon's scenario requires obtaining the lab card key in the West Area's disposal experiment lab, followed by battling G's fourth form. For Claire, the lab card key grants access to the vaccine cartridge in the active fluid experiment lab. After powering the room and creating the vaccine base, the vaccine is completed in the East Area B4F lab. The page also covers fingerprint registration in the culture lab, requiring authentication at a lock system. Finally, it outlines the battle with G's fourth form, triggered by using the MO disc in the West Area B4F cargo room. The initial bipedal form transitions into a quadrupedal beast, necessitating powerful weapons and a decisive attack strategy. The reverse scenario in Resident Evil 2 offers a distinct playthrough from the standard game, with more complex escape routes and altered enemy encounters. After the G third form battle, Leon and Claire are separated, leading to different paths into the lab. Key steps include activating the elevator power, obtaining the power room key, and experiencing unique events in the power room involving Ada for Leon and Sherry for Claire. Following these events, the master key is acquired, granting access to an emergency route. The scenario culminates in boss battles. The super tyrant on the freight train platform fought with a rocket launcher provided by an unknown figure, followed by the G5th form at the rear of the train, requiring strategic use of powerful weapons. Overcoming these challenges leads to the game's ending. This page is dedicated to the G-virus monsters from Biohazard 2, known as Resident Evil 2 in English. It details the different monstrous transformations caused by the G-virus. The page explains that the G-virus is designed to maximize life force, creating G-creatures. Dr. William Birkin, an Umbrella researcher, injected himself with the G-virus, resulting in his own transformation. The G-creatures reproduce by implanting embryos into host bodies. The page then describes the different stages of G-virus transformation, accompanied by images of each stage. Gembryo. This is the juvenile stage, a result of the gembryo being implanted. It's described as an imperfect form of reproduction and lacks reproductive capability from the mouth. G-form 1. This form retains a human shape but becomes asymmetrical. To Abe. It is stronger than a zombie and can easily tear apart iron bars. G-form 2. G cells have spread through the upper body, except for the left arm. A different face emerges, and a skull and brain are formed. G-form 3. G cells infest the lower body, and supplementary arms grow from the sides. Berries. The original arms stretch out on the back. A giant heart appears on the chest. G-form 4. In a life-threatening situation, the body transforms for hyper-regeneration. Berries. It becomes beast-like, abandoning bipedal movement for high mobility. The jaw is designed to seize large prey. G-form 5. After consuming a large amount of food, the body becomes significantly enlarged and bloated. It becomes a soft-bodied creature capable of squeezing into tight spaces. Undigested flesh, zombies, is tasteless. This page is about the Nintendo Game Boy game Card Hero and details the fifth stage, Secret Organization Jokers. It focuses on tournament battles, offering advice for the second round, semifinals, and finals. For the second tournament battle against Komai, it's recommended to prioritize defeating monsters positioned in the front line and to use the Keko monster in the front line in the next turn. It also suggests taking out Lila quickly, as they can cause 2 damage in one turn. The Heart Attack and Water Rush cards for Keko are also suggested. The semifinal round is against Kumi. It suggests using Warp and Purge cards for effective damage, and emphasizes the importance of sun cards and power-up cards. There. The final tournament battle is against Shiru, who is described as not being a particularly strong opponent. It advises using level up and master cards to inflict 2 damage, and to defeat jails before level up occurs. It also recommends using warp and warp cards for strategic play. The page also highlights that winning the tournament will reward the player with a supercard set, which includes 1 supercard ticket and 2 level 1 cards. This page is about gameplay tips and character introductions for the N64 game Card Hero, which was exclusive to Japan. It starts by detailing tactics to defeat a character named Tori Ride, who is part of the Joker's group, mentioning his attacks like Chutoro and Kainabe, and advising the use of the Dragody card. The page reveals the tournament prize to be the Wilder Coil card and a set including Dragody cards, noting that Wilder Coil can be leveled up. It then discusses a special anime broadcast related to Card Hero called Magical Master, mentioning characters Mazal and Dero. A section introduces the character June, described as a cute girl who uses powerful cards like Gungalaga and Garance, advising caution against her level-down attacks. Finally, it covers how to defeat Zero, who is put under a sleeping spell in a magic show and uses the Telepo card in battle. The strategy is to level up supercards to overcome Zero, and it mentions cards like Japalit and Dangaranda in this context. This page showcases cards from the Monster and Magic card games Card Hero Boost Pack Volume 1. It introduces various monster cards with different star ratings, indicating rarity. The page starts with the Master card, explaining its role as the player's representation in the game and its special abilities. Then, it features numbered cards from 001 to 019. Each card shows a monster character, its name like Anatoto or Getter, a star rarity rating, and in-game stats such as LVHP and command options. The cards are categorized by monster type, and each has a short description highlighting its characteristics or battle style. For example, some cards are described as balance types, while others are focused on attack or support. The bottom of the page notes that the star mark next to the card name indicates the card's rarity, with more stars meaning it's harder to obtain. This page appears to be a strategy guide for a card battle game, focusing on deck construction and managing consumption stones. It's advising players to reduce the use of these stones when building their decks. The page illustrates different cards, labeled with numbers 020 to 035, that seem to be monsters and magic cards. Examples like Yanbaru and Gunter monsters are used to highlight the point that while their attack power might be similar, their consumption stone costs differ. The guide suggests that relying too heavily on cards that consume many stones can be detrimental, and it's better to include monsters and magic that are effective even with fewer stones. The advice is geared towards efficient deck building for strategic card battles, emphasizing cost-effectiveness in resource management. This page showcases Magical World Card Hero Booster Pack Volume 2, introducing a collection of cards. Each card is numbered and named, featuring characters like Rhaenyra, Rhaebaba, Rabadi, and many others. For each card, there's an image of the character, along with details about their abilities, levels, attack commands, and descriptions of their effects within the game. It appears to be a guide to the various cards in the booster pack, detailing their stats and gameplay functions. This guide provides deck-building advice for a fast attack strategy in an N64 card game's master battles. The core strategy centers on efficient stone management and aggressive monster placement. Recommended deck builds include Polygon, Valtel, Sigatonin, Sigotonin, and Sly. Polygon can attack the master without stones, while others need 23 stones. The guide details cards like Kamaitachi, Power 2, Udachi, and High Healing to illustrate gameplay mechanics, highlighting stone costs and effects. It advises utilizing Polygon for constant master attacks, Sly for support, and monsters like Sigatonin and Chutoro for quick stone recovery and follow-up attacks, also recommending cards like Boomerang and Thunder for tactical variety. The goal is to build a deck that swiftly attacks the opponent's master. This page is an advertisement for RandNet, a service for Nintendo 64, announcing it is available at the listed retail stores across Japan. The ad details pricing for starter kits, one including the N64 console and another without, both offering game software and a year of internet access, with monthly fees applicable after the first year. Contact phone numbers for Tokyo and Osaka are provided, along with a website address for more information. The listed stores are categorized by region throughout Japan. This page is a special sticker sheet featuring both The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, and Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. You can see a variety of stickers from Majora's Mask, including characters like Link, Zelda, Skull Kid, and some of the game's unique enemies. There's even a Coming Soon section for Majora's Mask, highlighting it as an upcoming title. Below that, you'll find a bunch of cute Kirby 64 stickers, showcasing Kirby in different poses and some of his friends and foes. The sheet also mentions a few other games like GameCube Powerful Pro Yaku 2000, Shigesato Itoi's #1 bass fishing game, and Gauntlet Legends, suggesting these were also popular titles around this time. It mentions these stickers are for you to put on your favorite game cartridges. This page is a plain yellow page with some slight discoloration on the right edge, possibly indicating it is near the edge of the magazine. It appears to be an empty page with no content related to games or any other information. This page from 64Dream magazine from March 2000 features a From Letters section where readers have sent in illustrations and questions to the editorial team. The page discusses reader inquiries and editorial responses. One reader asks if it's true that The Legend of Zelda is coming out on April 27th, expressing disbelief. And the editor jokingly advises readers to play Kirby and bass fishing while waiting. Another reader inquires about Super Smash Bros. Goods, and the editors mention that pencil cases and stationery sets are available, especially around the new school year. A question is raised about whether the editorial staff uses the internet. The response confirms they do, noting many staff have internet access at home and at work, mentioning the 64Dream website address. There's a question about the fishing controller 64, with the editor confirming its release and price, 5980 yen, and that they enjoyed playing it, especially the real controls, despite it being tiring to use for extended periods. Finally, a reader asks about the theme of 64Dream for the spring. The editor mentions they aim for bright and fun game information and will be covering new information on Game Boy Advance and Dolphin, GameCube, inviting reader feedback. The From Letters section includes fan illustrations for games like Dark Half, Outdoor FC, and Star Fox 64, along with short comments and reader names. There is also a mention of Mario Party 2 being popular. This page from GameSoft Fan Club 2, part of 64Dream Entertainment Club, is heavily focused on the upcoming release of The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. There's a small note mentioning that the new Fire Emblem game for N64 may still be a possibility, but details will follow in the next issue. The main headline highlights a special pre-release feature for Zelda with a focus on single-player content. The page expresses excitement for the release, noting it's almost here and mentioning the date April 27th, with someone jokingly worried about their messy room and lack of a new controller. There's a section dedicated to predictions about Majora's Mask, speculating that Link will transform into various characters, including female ones, and even suggesting scenarios like Link as a female character in a hot spring. Reader submissions and artwork related to Zelda are showcased, including fan comics and postcards. The page concludes by announcing that the next issue will continue the Zelda special, encouraging play reviews from readers and mentioning a humorous in-joke about naming Link Zelfukun, which is discouraged for submissions. This page covers several N64 games. Kirby 64. The Crystal Shards is nearing release, with screenshots and fan art, and solicits reader impressions. The Mother 3 section, for the 64DD, discusses an interview suggesting faster than expected development, alongside screenshots and reader comments on previous games. Pokemon Gold and Silver is briefly addressed, with a criticism of a low-quality book and a discussion of Pokemon information regulations. Reader comments focus on illustrations and favorite Pokemon. Finally, Super Mario 64 RPG 2 FC is teased as a winter blockbuster, likely centered around Luigi, with a reader's appreciation for his role. The page ends with a section on fan submissions, warning against content that could upset Nintendo and providing an address to send in content. This article, from the final issue of a publication, reflects on the gaming industry at the dawn of the PlayStation 2 era in 2000. It discusses the PS2's launch hype, contrasting it with past releases like Dragon Quest II. The author, owning multiple consoles like the Super Famicom, Nintendo 64, and Dreamcast, considers the space they occupy and the longevity of older systems like the NES and Super Famicom, even with new consoles like the Game Boy Advance and GameCube, Dolphin, on the horizon. The rising development costs of games, particularly for the GameCube and PS2, are addressed, with the author questioning if even the Game Boy can remain cheap. The article is visually represented by a cluttered setup of consoles, reflecting the Sargasso Sea of gaming hardware. Additional content includes game and cocktail recommendations and fan art. This page presents a range of reader questions and advice in different sections. In the Tell Me Kongo-san Ask Me Anything corner, a reader asks why game sales are down recently, and the response suggests it's not just the recession, but also because people are holding back spending on games due to new consoles being released. Another humorous question asks about making Blanca from Street Fighter Yellow and calling him Pikachu, to which Kongo-san expresses confusion at the odd nature of the query. Finally, a reader asks about the whereabouts of Fukumochi-san, who is revealed to be working in editing in the Kansai region after previously being known for the Bistro de Rokante cooking corner. The Chizuru Anasan's Love Consultation corner features reader dilemmas about love. One person confesses to falling in love with Fox McCloud from Star Fox 64 and wonders about the possibility of a relationship between a human and a Fox character. Another is caught in a love triangle when a boyfriend's best friend confesses feelings. The last case involves someone developing a crush on a game store clerk and worrying about appearing suspicious due to frequent visits without buying anything. This month's Watermelon the Final section focuses on chipmunks as pets, mentioning the popularity of gorilla characters like in Donkey Kong 64. It concludes by noting the end of the pet corner and referencing new game consoles and the upcoming Nintendo 2000 Space World event. This page is a comic strip titled Dream Runker by Shigehisa Nakaue, and this month's focus is on Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. The comic depicts Star Fox characters Fox and Falco arriving at Popstar, Kirby's home planet, because of strange readings. They find Kirby in a battle with a tree-like enemy. Fox expresses concern for Kirby, having rushed over to check on him, while Falco is confused by their friendly interaction and wonders about their relationship. The author's note at the bottom mentions Kirby's popularity and how easy he is to draw, highlighting it as part of Kirby's appeal. They also comment on the game's dynamic atmosphere in comparison to other games. This page is a manga strip featuring Kirby and Fox McCloud. Fox joins Kirby in battle and thanks him for fighting together. Kirby seems to have copied Fox's abilities, using guns and combining Fox's power. After the fight, Fox is relieved they won, although he can't recall exactly how. Kirby cheerfully invites Fox to visit again. Suddenly, Fox asks Kirby seriously whether he is a boy or a girl, dramatically declaring he will quit Star Fox if he doesn't like the answer. Text at the bottom mentions a popular DD side story special that will have a sequel, likely referring to Diddy Kong Racing. It also describes two manga series, Masked Squad Vader 5 Episode 3, titled Arc de Triomphe Operation, and Hey Ho 5, which features a giant monster. The last text box is a humorous comment critiquing character design in Hey Ho 5, seemingly about a character named Nakun and the size and design of a giant. This page is the Reader Corner DDD special and is a reader-submitted illustration showcase. The editor talks about playing SimCity 64 on the 64DD. There's a section introducing original character Amos from the Dream Drunker side story, detailing his secret. Amos is revealed to be Dark Link from The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, specifically from the Water Temple, explaining his origins and motivations after his defeat by Link, and mentioning the injuries he sustained during his battle and his encounter with a character called Light. Finally, there is a section discussing the future direction of the DD page, and plans to expand it based on reader feedback. This page is a magazine cover for GB Dream, focusing on Game Boy rewrite software. It's a complete catalog guide priced between 800 to 1,000 yen and dated March 1, 2000. Featured games include Four Frog the Bell Tolls, Golf, Tennis Solar Striker, and the new title, Super Mario Bros. DX. The cover art prominently features Mario and Luigi in a dynamic pose alongside other Mario Universe characters and enemies. It highlights that this issue is a complete preservation edition to understand everything about GB rewrite software. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition. The advert speaks to different types of players: those who played the Super Famicom version, those new to fishing games, and those who have played other fishing games. It highlights the 3D graphics and improved realism compared to the previous version, emphasizing the game's depth and ease of entry for new players, and its realistic fishing experience for seasoned fishing game fans. There is also a prize campaign mentioned for original lures called SRX Griffon from Megabass, with a campaign period from March 31st to May 31st, 2000. The ad features screenshots of the gameplay and cartoon character illustrations at the bottom. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game Bass Hunter 64, originally titled in Japan as Shigesato Itoi's No. 1 Bass Fishing, Decisive Edition. It highlights the game's release date as March 31, 2000, with a manufacturer's suggested retail price of 6,800 yen, excluding tax. The advert also mentions that the game is compatible with the Rumble Pack and Controller Pack. The background image shows an underwater scene with fish and what looks like fishing docks or structures. This page is a guide on how to use the Nintendo Power GB writing service at Lawson convenience stores to get new Game Boy games written onto special cartridges. The page uses a comic strip format with Mario and Luigi explaining the process. The comic shows steps like finding the Loppy machine in Lawson, purchasing a GB memory cartridge for 2,500 yen, operating the touch panel, and then having the game written by the store staff. Wario Land. Super Mario Land 3 and Mario Golf are mentioned as game examples available through this service. The page also includes instructions at the bottom on how to safely remove the center binding of the magazine, warning against using fingers, and recommending tools like screwdrivers and pliers to avoid injury. Starting March 1, 1999, Nintendo launched a Game Boy software rewrite service, delayed due to the Taiwan earthquake. The service offered 81 games, including Super Mario Bros. DX, spanning genres like action, simulation, RPG, sports, and puzzle. The article highlights Bionic Commando as an example, providing its price, release date, and developer. The game list is extensive and varied. The text explains the GB memory cartridge's F-block and B-block system for game storage. Instructions are provided for using the service at Lawson stores, where cartridges could be purchased and rewritten. Nintendo Power highlights several Game Boy games. The Action section features 25 downloadable titles, including Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, packed with modes and nostalgic levels, and Bionic Commando, where Lad Spencer battles Dr. Zai. Makai Mira Gaiden, likely Gargoyle's Quest, is presented as an action RPG with puzzle elements. Street Fighter II on Game Boy includes multiple modes and 8 playable characters. Red Arimer. Makai Mira Gaiden, likely Gargoyle's Quest 2, is also an action RPG. Finally, Game Boy Gallery 3 is recommended, containing 10 games, including Game & Watch titles, suitable for all player types. This page spotlights several Game Boy classics. Akumaju Special. Boku Dracula-kun, a parody Castlevania title, tasks players with defeating Garamoth. Netu Tushinden offers side-view fighting action with 8 characters and story. Kirby's Block Ball is a simple block-breaking game with 4 modes. The Game Boy Gallery series features classic Game & Watch titles, with 3 iterations. Game Boy Gallery 1 includes Fireman, Octopus, Manhole, and Oil Panic. Game Boy Gallery 2 adds Parachute, Helmet, Chef, Vermin, and Donkey Kong, plus the hidden Game Ball. Game Boy Gallery 3 adds Egg, Greenhouse, Turtle Bridge, Mario Bros., and Donkey Kong Jr., with hidden bonus games. Metroid 2 sees Samus Aran battling Metroids on State Route 388. Super Mario Land takes Mario to Sarasa Land, and Super Mario Land 2-6 Golden Coins challenges players to defeat Wario and reclaim Mario's castle. This page highlights Nintendo Power Game Boy rewritable software, popular in Japan. Featured games include Wario Land, where Wario seeks to reclaim his castle, Donkey Kong, a Game Boy port with new stages, Super Donkey Kong GB featuring new content compared to the Super Famicom version, and Donkey Kong Land, where Donkey and Diddy rescue stolen bananas. Kirby's Dream Land introduces the series, while Kirby's Dream Land 2 adds animal friends and expanded abilities. Other games include Bomberman GB3, challenge and story modes, Momotaro Dentetsu GB2, traveling with animal companions, GB Genjin 2, Bonk's Revenge, and the Shutoku Racing on the Shutoku Expressway. Each game description includes a brief overview and a screenshot. This page reviews 8 simulation games, starting with the Game Boy Wars series, which involves strategic battles and map expansions. The Purikura Pocket series offers school life simulations with mini-games and social elements, allowing players to customize characters and pursue different goals, from solving a mystery to becoming a talent. Bug Doctor focuses on insect collecting and battling, while Animal Breeder 2 allows players to raise and breed magical creatures. Dino Breeder 2, the final game, centers on raising and breeding dinosaurs, combining their DNA to create new species. A software rewriting service is also announced, starting on April 1st. This page reviews Game Boy games available through Nintendo Power. The shooting games section recommends Solar Striker, a vertical shooter, Nemesis 2, a beginner-friendly horizontal shooter from the Gradius series, and the classic Space Invaders. The sports games section highlights Super Black Bass Pocket 3, featuring multiple modes, and Tennis, a standard tennis game with multiplayer support. The page expresses a desire for more sports titles. A sidebar discusses the original white Game Boy and its early gray variations. Finally, Namco Gallery Volume 1, a compilation including Namco Classic, Galaxian, The Tower of Druaga, and Shikaku, is recommended in the Other category. This magazine page highlights several Game Boy titles. Golf is a port of the Famicom game, offering single and multiplayer modes. F1 Race is a racing game for up to 4 players with different car types and game modes. Umi no Nushitsuri 2 and Kawa no Nushitsuri 3 are fishing RPGs, the latter focusing on curing a sick sister. Namco Gallery Volume 3 is a compilation of classic Namco titles, emphasizing value. Pro Mahjong Kiwame GB is a mahjong game with realistic opponents. Fairy Kitty no Kaiun Seikyo, Seirei no Kuni no Uranai Shugyo, features Kitty-chan in a fortune-telling game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters is a card game adaptation based on the popular manga. Finally, Konami GB Collection Volume 1 bundles Gradius, Contra, Dracula Densetsu, and Konami Racing. This page highlights various Game Boy titles available through Nintendo Power. Konami GB Collection Volume 2 and Volume 4 offer compilations of classic Konami arcade games, including titles like Twinbee, Goemon, Parodius, and Frogger. Jinsei Game, Life Game, is a Game Boy adaptation of the board game of life. Namco Gallery Volume 1 and Volume 3 showcase classic Namco arcade hits, such as Mappy, Galaga, and Sky Kid, offering single-player experiences and varied gameplay. Kairu no Tame ni Kainwa Naru is an adventure game where you play as Prince Sable. Kirby's Pinball Land offers a pinball experience starring Kirby. Yakuman is a mahjong game, and Super Momotaro Dentetsu 2 is a board game where you buy properties across Japan. Finally, Trump Collection GB offers a selection of classic card games. This page highlights several puzzle games for the Game Boy. Featured are strategy games like Shogi 2, a Japanese chess game, and Honkaku Yonin Uchi Mahjong Mahjong King, a 4-player mahjong game. Yoshi's Cookie and Puzzle Bobble GB offer familiar puzzle mechanics with competitive multiplayer options. Kirby's Kira Kira Kids, known as Kirby's Star Stacker, tasks players with stacking blocks featuring Kirby characters, offering multiple game modes. Dr. Mario provides the classic matching capsules gameplay. Finally, Mario's Picross presents picture puzzles using numerical hints, while Picross 2 offers an expanded experience with larger grids and cooperative 2-player functionality. This page highlights several Game Boy titles available through Nintendo Power cartridge rewriting. Puzzle games include Yoshi's Cookie, involving cookie matching, and Yoshi's Panepon, where players swap rising panels. Moguranya is an action game centered around digging and navigating the environment. Sane Game offers straightforward tile matching. The Arisa series of recommended RPGs are also showcased, emphasizing their quality and graphical prowess comparable to older consoles. These include Megami Tensei Gaiden, Last Bible, focusing on demon negotiation and fusion, and its sequel, Last Bible 2, with enhanced demon interactions. Finally, Medarut, Kabuto version, and Medarut, Kuwagata version, are presented as RPGs, where players strengthen their robots through part swapping and battles, each version featuring different items. This article highlights a variety of Game Boy RPGs. Titles include Dragon Slayer Gaiden, a class-based adventure, Explosive Fishing Trip Master, a fishing-focused RPG, God Medicine, where students fight a demon lord, Petrified Genesis Reborn 2, a monster-collecting and evolving game, Vitamin A Kingdom Story, a food-themed exploration RPG, and The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening DX, a colorized remake. The Arisa series features a fairy hint system, with Princess Materia and Doll, with Arisa 2 introducing capsule monsters, and Arisa 2i, exploring different timelines. The article also touches on the Game Boy Color's popularity, mentioning color variations and compatibility between Japanese and overseas consoles. This page is an advertisement for the Game Boy. It highlights the release date of April 21, 1989, and announces that by the year 2000, 100 million Game Boy units had been sold worldwide. The image shows a Game Boy console with a Tetris game cartridge. The advertisement also promotes GB Love magazine. This page introduces a new corner in the magazine called Almost Loco Copy Fortress, encouraging readers to create copies of things and submit them. It's described as a fun corner for everyone, regardless of artistic or writing skills. The page gives examples of copies for Mario and Luigi, offering humorous descriptions. For Mario, examples are Mr. Mustache Old Man and Red Long Sleeve Shirt. It's like shrimp. For Luigi, examples are Standing in the Grasslands and For 2p Use Only. The page also features a comic strip section titled Saru Puncher, which seems to be a humorous section, with panels depicting everyday situations with a gaming twist, possibly related to mental strength and stress from school or game difficulty. The comic seems to be about a kid playing games and dealing with game-related frustration and parental guidance. The next issue topics are announced as Mario, Game Boy, and 64Dream, mentioning that Game Boy has been dropped, and they are looking for more straightforward copy ideas, and 64Dream will feature copies that can be used on the front cover of the magazine. The page also includes submission details for readers to send in their loco copies to the 64Dream magazine editorial department. Lesson 35. A Vague Story of Lifespan by Dr. Mario answers reader questions about game media longevity. The first addresses the lifespan of N64 cartridge save data. These cartridges use SRAM, powered by lithium batteries to retain saves. These batteries last roughly 3 to 5 years and need replacing. Flash memory, used in PlayStation memory cards, is more durable, as it doesn't require constant power. The second question concerns 64DD discs, which, while theoretically lasting 100 years, realistically last around 10 years with careful handling, similar to Famicom Disk System discs. The text also includes an unrelated image featuring Doc Shasta, Dr. Tops, and Dr. Pop drink cans. This Saru Puncher page focuses on reader impressions and combines its Dream Impression corner with a forum. The feature highlights controller impressions and 2 game reviews. Paint Studio, the first game, is a spiritual successor to Mario Paint. Reviewer Nerys Akira from Hokkaido praises significant improvements, particularly smoother pen movement and multiple save slots. They express interest in a capture card to enhance creativity. Getter Love is the second game, reviewed by Lime from Miyazaki. They bought it impulsively and found it incredibly cute and addictive. They rediscovered the joy of the game when playing with friends, despite potential game fatigue. The page also includes short manga comics. One features characters eating food, and another focuses on game strategy and patience. This collection of N64-related forum content explores several topics. One article defends video games against claims of inciting violence, emphasizing the wide variety of genres and emotional depth found within them. The author argues against generalizing all games as harmful, pointing to diverse titles like Mother and Wave Race 64. Another section discusses the acceptance of bug techniques in games, suggesting that if they don't negatively impact others, they are acceptable and can even enhance the experience, using Street Fighter II as an example. Finally, a forum post expresses a desire for N64 to support Super Famicom/SNES games, criticizing the lack of backwards compatibility and advocating for a Super Game Boy-like device. The author highlights classic games like Fire Emblem and Super Smash Bros., hoping to enjoy them on their N64 and drawing parallels to enjoying older media formats. This page features 2 reader-submitted articles. The first article discusses the nature of video games, suggesting they should be viewed with a wider perspective, considering them beyond just children's toys, and acknowledging their evolving forms like mobile and online gaming. The second article is about a reader's love for Luigi, expressing their feelings about criticisms of the character, especially concerning his role in Mario Party 2, and wondering if Luigi is only meant to be a side character to Mario. Additionally, there's an advertisement for the Game Boy Color game Saru Boxing by Taito. In Saru Boxing, players become trainers and raise monkeys to be champion boxers. The advert includes game screenshots and release information. Finally, A section called From Reader Questionnaires presents short comments from readers on various topics, including 64Dream magazine and Pokemon. The next page features a section titled N64 Backstreet Shopping Street, which delves into a reader's gaming room setup. This person's room, described as a 64 room, is packed with gaming equipment, including 2 computers, TVs, and various consoles like the Super Famicom, Famicom Disk System, Dreamcast, Saturn, PlayStation 2, and of course, the N64. They primarily play N64 on a monitor and have amassed a collection of rare game items and software. Games mentioned include Card Hero and Pokemon Gold and Silver, and they are eagerly anticipating the release of Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. Another section on the page is This Month, I'll Buy This, which recommends Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. It highlights Kirby's popularity within the series and emphasizes the game's easy-to-play nature and enjoyable multiplayer for up to 4 players, thanks to the minigames. Dingdade is also mentioned as appearing in the game as a boss. The page also includes an image of an N64 controller and refers to it as a banana controller, mentioning a DK64 logo and banana-style painting, suggesting a special edition or custom controller. An Akihabara price survey from March 11th shows older Nintendo software generally increasing, though low-priced games are becoming more common. The market is considered to be at appropriate price levels. Biohazard 2 and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 are recommended as good value. Nintendo 64 prices remain high. Hardware prices are listed, including the Nintendo 64 at 12,800 yen and Game Boy Color at 6,700 yen. A detailed software price list compares regular prices with Akihabara market prices for various games. The survey also details the overseas RR64, Ridge Racer 64, release, highlighting its enhanced graphics, extra courses, and 4-player multiplayer capabilities. Playing the overseas version requires a ROM cartridge adapter on a Japanese N64. The next page is showcasing the impressive Nintendo Power lineup. With a huge catalog of downloadable titles for both Super Famicom and Game Boy, you can see a great range of games, from the classic Super Donkey Kong 1, 2, and 3, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and the amazing Super Mario Collection, all for Super Famicom. On the Game Boy side, there are many Picross NP titles, plus puzzle and action games. Looking below, you can see upcoming release schedules from April onwards for Super Famicom, Game Boy, and Pocket games. April features exciting titles in action, RPG, and puzzle genres. May and beyond promises even more, with RPGs, puzzle games, and action experiences coming to all 3 platforms. This page is an interview with Shigesato Itoi, the creator of the Earthbound series, a role-playing game well known on Nintendo consoles. This is his first appearance in 64Dream magazine in 29 months. The interview will cover topics such as new software and his work. Readers are encouraged to enjoy Itoi World and visit his website. The title lettering on the page was also created by Itoi himself. The next page is an interview with Itoi Shigesato about his N64 game, Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition. The title on the page boldly states that if you buy this game, you can throw away all other fishing games. It's a deep dive into the game's development, with Itoi explaining how it moved from the Super Famicom to the N64, really focusing on the advancements in 3D graphics and fish AI on the N64. He points out that in the N64 version, fish can be released freely, a step up from the SFC version. Apparently, they were planning the N64 version even while making the SFC1. Screenshots show the in-game view. Itoi touches on how the game caters to both newcomers and fishing veterans, mentioning the vibration pack feature. He also shares some of his own fishing habits and how those influenced the game's design. This title remained exclusive to Japan and was not released overseas. The next page is an interview with Itoi about the N64 game, No. 1, Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition, a fishing simulation title that was released only in Japan. The interview discusses the game's development, its focus on realistic fishing experiences, and the fun aspects of the gameplay. Itoi mentions the game's depth, stating that even though it appears simple, it incorporates realistic fishing elements like seasonal changes, water temperature, and fish behavior. He also touches upon the use of the Tsurikon 64 fishing controller, and how it enhances the gameplay experience, although he admits it may not be strictly necessary for enjoying the game's core mechanics. The interview highlights the game's appeal to both hardcore fishing enthusiasts and casual players, emphasizing the enjoyable challenge of mastering virtual fishing techniques that mirror real-world fishing strategies. Screenshots show in-game fishing scenes, menu interfaces, and tackle boxes, giving a glimpse into the game's visual style and features. The page also includes a section about the game's approachability, suggesting it's designed to be enjoyed by both experienced players and those new to fishing games. The next page is about the N64 game Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition. The page features an interview with Mr. Itoi, who is involved in the game's development at Jungle Jungle. The interview discusses the appeal of bass fishing in the game, noting its realistic feel and the sense of accomplishment when catching a fish. Itoi mentions that the game is designed to be playable for a long time, even for 10 years. He points out the depth of the water simulation and how water quality affects the fish. The interview also touches on the development process, highlighting the effort put into creating realistic fish behaviors and environments. Itoi jokes about how making the game was like catching fish at work. There is a mention of a special presentation gift for players of the N64 version, which is a Bass Pro lure, indicating the game's focus on realistic bass fishing equipment. Itoi also mentions the commercial for the N64 version and the slogan, "Throw away other fishing software." Screenshots on the page show in-game scenes, including underwater views of fish and the user interface. There is also a character of a bear named Curl Ojisan, who appears in the game. The page emphasizes the definitive nature of this bass fishing game for the N64. The next page features a special interview with Shigesato Itoi, focusing on the N64 game Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition. Itoi discusses his love for bass fishing, mentioning his personal best catch is 68 centimeters long, though in the game, he often aims for around 70 centimeters. He also mentions his average catch in real life is about 35 centimeters, similar to the in-game size. Itoi talks about the appeal of the game being more than just realistic fishing. It's about the enjoyment of the activity itself. He gives advice for players, suggesting they team up with skilled players. He emphasizes the importance of timing and reflexes in the game. He shares anecdotes about his fishing experiences, like enjoying ramen and grilled crab during breaks, and how much he sleeps during fishing trips. He mentions the clubhouse feature in the game, where players are accompanied by a frog character. Itoi explains that the thrill of fishing, whether in-game or real life, comes from the anticipation and the feeling of accomplishment when you finally catch something. He also mentions the game's locations are inspired by real places like Lake Sagami and Lake Biwa. In an interview, Itoi-san discusses the development of Mother 3, assuring fans that progress is steady despite initial challenges and the desire for a summer 2000 release. The core structure is complete, with the team focusing on details like dialogue refinement. The game's scenario was finished last spring, and the N64 version is essentially Mother 3 and Mario RPG 2. Development is progressing at a pace similar to the Super Famicom era, with chapters 1 and 2 nearing completion. Improvements have been made since the Space World demo thanks to better tools and help from the Pokémon Stadium team, particularly with graphics. The game features about 5 main characters, including twin brothers Ryuka and Klaus. Itoi-san recommends Bad Day Diary as a source of inspiration, noting its RPG-like impact and relevance to the game's themes. This page features an interview with Shigesato Itoi, discussing various topics related to games and development. The conversation touches upon a new game concept titled Cabbage, described as a friendship game that emerged from discussions during the interview. Itoi mentions that further details about Cabbage are currently unavailable. The interview also delves into the Mother series, including the desire to bring the original Famicom game Mother to the Game Boy. There's discussion about the possibility of Mother 3 appearing on the 64DD and how it's aiming for a traditional RPG feel. Screenshots from Mother 3 on the 64DD are shown, showcasing the game in development. Other game titles are brought up, such as Bass Fishing, Donkey Kong, and Smash Bros., likely referring to Super Smash Bros. Key figures like Mr. Iwata, Mr. Miyamoto, and Mr. Sakai from HAL Laboratory are also mentioned in the context of game development and collaboration. The page includes a picture of Shigesato Itoi and promotional imagery, including what appears to be magazine cover mock-ups related to Mother 3. This page is an interview piece featuring Mr. Itoi, discussing his Hobo Nikkan Itoi Shinbun website and his work philosophy. He mentions that he is driven by the thought of future possibilities, and is always working hard. He discusses his work style, sleep habits, and how he values meeting and talking to knowledgeable people in various fields. There is a section highlighting Secret Base on the Tree, which is mentioned as a popular corner on the Hobo Nikkan Itoi Shinbun website. It notes that interviews with N64 software developers, including companies like Rare and Nintendo's Mr. Miyamoto, can be found there. This section seems to be promoting the website as a source for interviews with N64 game developers, rather than directly reviewing any games on this magazine page itself. This page is an interview with Shigesato Itoi, discussing his daily work and the Hobo Nikkan Itoi Shinbun website. He talks about his routine, starting work in the afternoon and often continuing late into the night. The interview mentions that he always carries his Apple G3 PowerBook laptop. There is a discussion about the website's name and its continuous updates, despite being called Hobo Day newspaper, implying a daily update. He mentions that he is careful about what he sells on the website, focusing on items that people truly need, and not just anything that will sell. The interview also touches on the Mother series, mentioning the feeling of creating Mother and wanting to make things that people truly appreciate. It also talks about a popular Hobonichi Techo planner bag that was sold and quickly sold out, becoming a popular product. The page includes images of Itoi, his workspace, and some products related to his website, like a Hobonichi plate and bag. This page is an interview with Mr. Itoi, who is described as a copywriter, author, game creator, fisherman, company executive, and TV personality, among other things. The interview touches upon his various roles. As a buried treasure excavator, he humorously describes it as being interesting but also difficult work. Regarding being a TV talent, he mentions appearing on quiz shows. He also discusses writing novels and wanting to create a system to support writers. As a lyricist, he talks about writing lyrics. His past as a yo-yo champion is mentioned, recalling his yo-yo skills were quite low level, but he participated in competitions in his youth. Regarding being a copywriter, he mentions his favorite copy lines and his disinterest in past work. As an author, he mentions a big project he is working on with an artist, hinting at something significant. Lastly, as a voice actor, he reflects on voicing the father in My Neighbor Totoro, and feeling embarrassed, but also grateful for the award. While Mr. Itoi is known for his game creation, particularly the Mother series, this page focuses on his wider career and doesn't specifically delve into his game development work or any N64 titles. This interview with Shigesato Itoi covers a diverse range of his activities. He discusses his role as chairman of the Japanese Monopoly Association, though he's not actively involved. He shares insights on his copywriting instruction, including a past series. He also touches on supervising card games like Remeka, hinting at a Pokemon connection. Itoi reveals his passion for the Yomiuri Giants baseball team, attending many games annually. He details his involvement in Itoi Riki Curry, from recipe consultation to packaging. He discusses his surprising role in the 2,000 yen bill project. He describes his work style, highlighting meaningful conversations with company presidents. Finally, he reiterates his card game involvement, emphasizing his approach to merging diverse elements in unexpected ways, citing Remeka and Talent Studio. This page is from the N64 question box section, where Hanjo-san from Nintendo answers questions from readers. It mentions that the release of The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask is only about a month away, and there's news about new N64 software coming in spring 2000. One reader asks about Nintendo's plans for 64 games after The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Hanjo-san responds by mentioning unannounced sports games being made by Camelot, who created Mario Golf 64, possibly suggesting a sequel. He also talks about the appeal of 4-player games and Perfect Dark, and mentions the possibility of Nintendo publishing Furai no Siren 2. Another question is about the release date of Majora's Mask being earlier than expected. Hanjo-san explains that the Zelda team has been working on it since Ocarina of Time was finished, and confirms the release date as April 27th, with commercials starting from April 1st. A screenshot from Majora's Mask is shown with the phrase, "Jump is okay," indicating in-game dialogue. This magazine Q&A previews upcoming games and news. Majora's Mask is highly anticipated, aiming for a darker tone than Ocarina of Time. Players face a 3-day deadline to save the world. Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, is designed for young children, featuring simple controls and combinable copy abilities. A reader-submitted Kirby snow sculpture is also shown. Regarding Mario RPG 2 and the Game Boy Zelda, Information will be released gradually to avoid spoilers, with Zelda no Densetsu, Fushigi no Kinomi Daiichi no Shao, Oracle of Seasons, coming this summer, and Mario RPG 2 expected by year's end. Kirby merchandise, including mousepads, is planned for release around Golden Week, appealing to all ages. This Q&A section covers several topics related to the video game industry. First, it explains why finished games are sometimes not released, citing factors like market demand, advertising costs, and timing. The Game Boy Color's global success is discussed, highlighting strong sales in America and Europe, production limitations, and the impact of Pokémon. The article wonders why this success isn't more widely reported. The third question explores differences between Japanese and overseas game markets, noting overseas preferences for higher difficulty, complex RPG elements, and visually impressive graphics. Finally, it explains why Nintendo of America is located in Seattle. The city's convenience, pleasant environment, large Japanese population, strong business ties to Japan, and proximity to Japan via air travel, along with being a good location to facilitate shipping. This Q&A page provides information on several Nintendo-related topics. Card Hero for the N64, only released in Japan, is experiencing strong sales due to its enjoyable gameplay and collectible card sets, boosted by TV commercials. The communication adapter, connecting Game Boy Color to mobile phones, is ready for launch in April, with planned telecommunication services including games in collaboration with Konami. Mobile 21 logo. The overseas version of Super Smash Bros. Features adjustments to character skills and added endings compared to the Japanese release. Finally, Pokémon Snap players can print stickers of their in-game photos at service centers, such as the one in Tokyo, for a fee. A separate headline question box asks about player reactions to death in action games. This page is a Q&A section with questions directed to Nintendo. The first question asks about the meaning of advance in Game Boy Advance, to which the humorous reply is to check a dictionary, but it's explained to mean progress and advancement from previous Game Boy models, highlighting the widescreen and improved screen resolution. Another question asks when the Game Boy Advance screen can be seen. The answer points to Space World in late August, and hints at public viewings later, mentioning Donkey Kong 64 as a game to be showcased. The further question asks about a color-only version of the Pocket Camera, Game Boy camera, to which the answer is no, explaining the unique appeal of the monochrome camera and its communication features within the Game Boy ecosystem. Finally, a question asks about APE. The response details that APE is a company founded in 1990 by Mr. Itoi Shigesato to gather aspiring game creators, referencing the game Earthbound, and their aim to support creators while making games like Monopoly for the Famicom, and mentioning Bass Fishing No. 1 as a future project. This page has several question and answer sections about the N64. One section addresses a question about NUS and CGB codes, explaining they are product and model codes, with NUS being for N64 and CGB for Game Boy Color, similar to other Nintendo systems codes like SHVC for Super Famicom and AGB for Game Boy Advance. Another question discusses why Super Mario DX was only available as a rewrite, answering that it was to build excitement around the Nintendo Power Service, highlighting the game and mentioning the game rewrite service at Lawson stores, and possibly a packaged release of Fire Emblem Thracia 776 due to the service closing. A question about the Pokémon boom asks how long it will last, with the answer being confident in its continued popularity, comparing it to Disney and mentioning new movies and radio programs like Pocket Stadium 3, suggesting continuous new content will maintain interest. Finally, there is a call for reader questions for the N64 question box, inviting readers to submit N64-related questions about hardware or software to be answered by Hanma-san, with submission details via mail or FAX to the 64Dream editorial department. This page details top news regarding Nintendo's business strategies. It highlights Nintendo actively pursuing business expansions through stock acquisitions and partnerships. Firstly, Nintendo's acquiring approximately 3% of Lawson's stock. Secondly, Nintendo is establishing a joint venture company with advertising agency Dentsu and Konami. This venture, named Mobile 21, is formed with Konami, while a new company named XD Cube is being established with Dentsu. Furthermore, services for Super Famicom and Game Boy games are set to continue and expand to mobile phones, allowing users to download game and character data through Lawson stores and mobile phone networks. The page also includes a timeline of Nintendo's business activities since the launch of the Nintendo 64. This page features a range of news and product announcements. A new limited edition Pocket Pikachu in gold and silver colors is being released, similar to the original but with a stylish color screen. There is also an article discussing a collection disc system for the game Nakayama Miho's Tokimeki High School, noting its popularity and various disc versions. A new solar-powered Source Grandpa compatibility diagnosis device from Matsushita Electric is announced, designed to give relationship advice. In school news, a report from America details a student ordered to pay $1,500 for lost Pokémon cards, sparking discussions about responsibility. Konami is launching a mobile phone content service called Pawapuro Kuntetai Success, based on the powerful Pro Baseball series, available on NTT Docomo and JPHONE services. Finally, there is news of arrests for people importing and selling unauthorized Stone Pikachu and Astro Boy figures, highlighting the issue of counterfeit merchandise, especially related to popular characters like Pikachu. Upcoming games for the Nintendo 64 include Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition, a fishing simulator with improved visuals and realistic mechanics, and Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, which introduces ability combinations and features minigames. Game Boy Color releases include Wario Land 3, an action game with day/night cycles affecting gameplay, GB Live Powerful Pro Baseball 99, a baseball simulation focused on player development, and Poppin' Music GB, a rhythm action game with diverse music genres. And finally, Arlie's Adventure Magic Jewel for Game Boy blends puzzle gameplay with RPG elements, starring characters from the Puyo Puyo series. On February 25th, Media Factory's Bit Tours hosted Shibuya's Long Night, featuring a talk show with Mr. Ida and Mr. Inota Toshikazu. The event, fueled by audience enthusiasm, went overtime and covered music, behind-the-scenes stories, and Mr. Ida's guitar. The lively atmosphere included a Michael Jackson promotional video. The page also contains a manga strip, Link's Tiny Adventure, humorously depicting chickens from the Zelda series. A product review highlights the ASC2 Suricon 64 fishing controller for N64 games. The controller's realistic vibrations and real feedback enhance the fishing experience, though it's a bit heavy. The controller was slated for a March 31st release for 5,980 yen. A monthly news special correspondent corner briefly mentions letters and reports, hinting at industry news, including IBM CPU for the Dolphin, and the merger of LandNet related to Nintendo 64 game writing services. This page is an SFC and GB information page and focuses on the Game Boy Color game Wario Land 3, Mysterious Music Box. It introduces the game as featuring Wario, who is trapped inside a mysterious music box in a forest and needs to collect 5 music boxes to escape. The article highlights Wario's various reactions and actions in the game. It explains that Wario can react differently to enemy attacks, which is key to progressing. For example, Wario can become flat, frozen, or even zombified, and these transformations can be used to solve puzzles and reach new areas. The game features day and night stages, where the enemies and treasures that appear change depending on the time of day. To clear a stage, you need to find keys and open treasure chests of the same color. Each stage has 4 keys and treasure chests, encouraging players to replay stages and explore both day and night versions to find everything. It also mentions that some treasures can only be obtained by using enemies, or by triggering events after getting treasure, adding further depth to exploration. Finally, the page mentions that the game has an English language mode that can be selected at the game start, alongside Japanese. It suggests that playing in English mode first might be challenging, but could be a good way to study English after clearing the game once in Japanese. This page previews 2 Game Boy Color titles. The first is Star Ocean, Blue Sphere, an RPG by Enix. It's highlighted as a completely new entry in the Star Ocean series, following the storylines of previous games on the SFC and PS. The gameplay systems from earlier titles like skills and item creation are carried over, and battles are described as half real-time. The second game featured is Bikuriman 2000 Charging Card GB, a card battle game by Imagineer based on the popular Bikuriman franchise from TOMY. The article emphasizes the simple gameplay, automatic point calculations, and tutorial mode suitable for beginners. It showcases the battle system rules and introduces characters Akira and Takeru within the context of card battles. This page introduces Saru Puncher for the Game Boy Color, a game where you raise a monkey boxer. It's a continuation from a previous article and delves into how to train your monkey. The story revolves around siblings Kenta and Suemeyer, whose father was a famous monkey boxing trainer. One day, a mysterious organization called Monkeys kidnaps their father. To rescue him, you'll have to train a monkey to be a Saru Puncher and enter the Saru 1 Grand Prix, organized by the monkeys. The game involves training your monkey using commands, building a bond, and participating in boxing matches. Training includes activities like using the sandbag. Matches are described as fundamentally controlled by the monkey, but players can give instructions during rounds and between rounds. The Monkeys organization is described as a mysterious group pulling strings behind the monkey boxing world, and their objective is connected to the protagonist's father, Katsujiro. The ultimate goal is to raise your monkey to be a champion. This page highlights 4 different games. First up is SFC Picross NP Volume 7 for the Super Famicom's Nintendo Power Service, a puzzle game in the Picross series, boasting 240 puzzles including a character mode starring Wario and a special mode with keyword challenges. Next is Hamster Paradise 2, Chupu, for Game Boy Color, a hamster simulation game where you raise hamsters, breed them, and aim to find a talking hamster. It features mini-games and interactions with your virtual pets. Then we have Poppin' Music GB for Game Boy Color, a portable version of the popular arcade rhythm game, including over 20 songs and both 5-line and simplified 2 or 3-line gameplay modes, and communication play. Lastly, there's Puzzle Loop for both Game Boy and Game Boy Color, a puzzle game where you rotate a central cannon to shoot jewels and match 3 or more of the same color, with a checkmate mode for more complex puzzle solving. This page showcases 4 games for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. First up is Shin Megami Tensei, Devil Children Black Book and Red Book, RPG titles where you collect and fuse demons. These 2 versions feature different protagonists and demons to encounter. Next is Perfect Choro Q, a racing game that simulates real toy car racing, allowing players to design courses, customize cars, and explore an RPG-like world map. Then there's Ojarumaru Tsukiyo ga Ike no Takaramono, a board game based on the popular anime, where you play as Ojarumaru collecting items around town. Lastly, we have Rayman, Mr. Dark's Trap, an action game where you control Rayman to rescue fairies from the clutches of Mr. Dark, navigating side-scrolling levels and collecting items. This page showcases 4 Game Boy Color games. First up is Arle's Adventure, Magical Jewel, an RPG from the Puyo Puyo series. In this game, Arle must use cards and jewels to help the Puyo villagers who have been turned into cards. Next is Billiard Club, a straightforward billiard game offering modes like 9-ball and rotation, with the interesting feature of 2-player mode, even without a link cable. Then there's Bugs Bunny in Crazy Castle 4, an action game where Bugs explores maze-like stages, avoiding traps and collecting keys to advance, typical of the Crazy Castle series gameplay. Finally, Puzzle Bobble 4 is featured, a puzzle game where you clear bubbles by matching 3 or more of the same color. This version boasts 135 stages and a single-player mode to clear all bubbles. This page is about the Nintendo 64 fishing game, Bass Rush, known internationally as Fisherman's Bait 2, Big Ol' Bass, or Bass Masters 2000. It showcases gameplay elements and how to catch bass in the game. Screenshots demonstrate the fishing action in various environments. The page explains the basic gameplay loop, including casting lures, reeling in fish, and utilizing tension gauges. It mentions different gameplay modes such as a water mode, where you can see fish underwater, and another mode where the underwater view is obscured. The page also introduces different fish types available in the game, such as largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and even koi. There's also a section titled Bass Ecology, providing facts about largemouth bass. The game is described as allowing players to experience realistic fishing and compete to catch bigger fish. This page is dedicated to Ide Yosuke's Mahjong School, a Nintendo 64 game designed for players of all levels, from beginners to experts. The page highlights the game's family mode, which is a major draw, featuring a cast of 7 unique and expressive 3D characters. These characters include the 50-year-old father Kazuo Murakami, the 47-year-old mother Naoko Murakami, the 13-year-old daughter Midori Murakami, the 78-year-old Hiroshi Murakami, the 76-year-old Hana Murakami, the 17-year-old exchange student Lisa Hamilton, and the Mahjong master Yosuke Ide himself. The game emphasizes realistic character expressions that change based on the game's flow and tile arrangements, adding depth beyond just visuals. It features both tournament mode and free match options, catering to different playstyles. The page also shows in-game screenshots, including gameplay views and character interactions during matches, along with details about viewing tournament results and anticipated pairings. The game is priced at 5,800 yen estimated, and is classified as a table game for one player. The next page is all about the 64DD and getting online with RandNet. It's like a guide showing you how to set up your 64DD to access LANnet, covering steps like accessing LANnet itself, checking your IND and password, entering your member IND, and setting up tone pulse dialing. There's also a section showcasing fan art submissions in the 64DD Artists Atelier corner, and it announces the selected LANnet monitors. Finally, there's a correction and some extra info about a previous issue, mentioning a 64DD special interview and the music from the game Doshin the Giant. It also talks about a music CD called Media Factory, priced at 2,200 yen. This Q&A section details the launch of the LANnet DD online service for the 64DD. The service is live and celebrates with a lottery for subscribers to periodic issues. Prizes include Giant Dawn merchandise. Another section explains Sugachara, a service for obtaining unique characters through Sugagacha machines, which can be collected in a Suka-Kole and exchanged. New characters will be added over time. Finally, the section explains Landcash, a virtual currency used within LANnet for easier online purchases. Landcash functions like prepaid cards, offering premium deals like extra service for larger purchases. It's particularly recommended for children using the Picture Diary KI service, enabling parents to manage their spending. This page is showcasing a new release flash for the N64 game Doshin the Giant Liberation Front Chibiko Chico Grand Gathering, which is described as a backup disc for the original Doshin the Giant one. This expansion disc, titled Doshin the Giant Liberation Front Param Faction, is developed and published by LANnet DD, with a scheduled release in late May. It's classified as a shooting game for one player, and requires the original Giant Doshin 1 game to function. The page details how to use the backup disc, instructing players to use the eject button, insert the Doshin 1 disc, and then the expansion disc, followed by pressing the reset button. It explains that the game involves switching between these two discs during gameplay and frequently pressing the eject button, creating a unique and unprecedented gaming experience. The setting of the game is revealed to be the 1996 World Doshin Expo in the Tokyo Bay Area, where the player's objective seems to be rescuing Doshin. The page features a character called Chibiko, wearing a red tie, pondering if this is the player character, and notes that they are definitely not giants. Another image shows a woman on a motorcycle, questioning if she is a powerful enemy or a strong ally. Finally, the page includes information about the World Doshin Expo 96, highlighting its theme of harmony between humanity and Henpo power, encouraging visitors to experience a convenient future. The 64DD software catalog details upcoming and release titles. New releases include Giants Doshin Release Front Strategy Chibiko Chi Assembly. Simulation games feature Wall Street, Provisional, and Modern Great Strategy, Ultimate War. Yosuke ED's Mahjong School is a 64DD version of a prior release, FZEROX. Expansion Kit, Provisional, allows track customization. Japan Pro Golf Tour 64 offers a realistic golf experience. Varies. Etc. category includes tools like Soundmaker, Provisional, DD Sequencer, Provisional, Mario Artist Polygon Studio, DTDD version, Provisional, and Desaimon DD, Provisional. Released software includes Doshin the Giant, Mario Artist Paint Studio, Mario Artist Talent Studio, SimCity 64, and RandNet Disc, with more releases and online features planned. Quote, The Illustration Special Hall of Fame presents reader-submitted fan art. The section begins with a peaceful scene of a character enjoying Tokyo souvenirs. Artwork includes a cutout-style Ness from Earthbound, praised for its composition, an illustration of Shiren the Wanderer highlighting the struggle with hunger, and Maple from The Legend of Zelda. Pokémon Gold and Silver are represented by art featuring Ho-Oh, Lugia, the protagonist, and rival characters. A quick Mario illustration and an art piece featuring Pikachu and Red are included. A Resident Evil 2 artwork, created by a parent, is also featured. Lastly, an illustration of Mother, Earthbound Zero, for the Famicom, highlights the game's continued popularity. This page is showcasing reader submissions and fan letters. At the top, there are illustrations based on different themes. One section features Link from Zelda, with the theme of heroicness. Another shows characters from Evangelion, discussing Evangelionness. There's also a Mario illustration with characters like Mario and Goomba, themed Nintendo-ness and Hudson-ness, mentioning party games. Other themes illustrated are womanness, frogness, girlness, Zero, and bad girlness, with a Team Rocket Jessie illustration. Below, there's a section for children's illustrations under 10 years old. These include drawings of a Winnie the Pooh-like character, Pikachu, Yoshi, and a Toad-like character, Banjo-Kazooie-style characters, and Kirby painting. Finally, there are fan letter sections addressed to Salmont Kameyama and Forest Queen Salia, with handwritten messages and drawings included. This page showcases fan art celebrating various Nintendo games. Highlights include illustrations of Shiren the Wanderer waking up, Maple from the Zelda series, and humorous crossovers like Resident Evil characters alongside Nintendo characters. Several Kirby artworks depict the character in various settings and with different weapons, including one in a Dragon Quest style. Other featured art includes depictions of Lugia and Hu enjoying a nap, Maple in a magical girl style, and Shiren's companion Koopa. Super Mario RPG's growing popularity is mentioned, alongside art inspired by Donkey Kong Country and F-Zero. Child Link, Vapula from Ogre Battle 64, Leon from Pokemon, and Samurai Goro also appear. The collection concludes with more Maple and Kirby illustrations, and praise for Olwen from Fire Emblem. This page showcases a fan submission section titled, Mario Bodyguard Force. Ooh. It's packed with humorous fan-created content related to Mario and other Nintendo characters. The 4-panel manga Longhouse section features short comics. One comic includes Mario, Luigi, Pikachu, and a scary-faced Mario, described as having a series-like feel with amazing laughter. Another comic shows Luigi surrounded by Jigglypuff, with Donkey Kong and another yellow character, commenting on Luigi being flustered by unreasonable pudding, referring to Jigglypuff. A Monument-themed comic and a Zelda-themed comic are also present. The Cool Shapes section shows single illustrations, including a drawing of an angry-looking face, a close-up of Kirby with a funny question about him being an American advisor lawyer, and a peculiar Link drawing alongside text discussing Pikachu bug bite and summer observations. Finally, there's a recruitment section for illustrations, and a list recognizing contributors who have received rank promotions this month, likely for their artwork submissions. This page delves into the Hall of Fame Dream technique for N64 games, focusing on command techniques and locations for all EX files in Resident Evil 2. It mentions that this time they are introducing convenient command techniques and the locations of all the EX files, which are unique to the N64 version. The page details command inputs for cheat modes in Resident Evil 2. These include unlimited ammo, activated by pressing up, 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 left, right, LR, LR, right, C, right, cleft, which gives you infinite ammo in the game. Another command is for Tofu Survivor, activated by up, down, left, right, right, LR, CUP, C down, cleft, C right, which unlocks Tofu Survivor mode, but it notes that the violence level must be set to low for this to work. Finally, there's a mention of the fourth Survivor mode, which is normally unlocked by clearing the scenario on S rank in the rear mode. Screenshots show gameplay from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Survivor. The page describes how to input the commands at the load screen in Resident Evil 2. It also mentions that with unlimited ammo, you don't need to carry ammo, allowing you to carry more items. For Tofu Survivor, it highlights that while it looks funny, the difficulty is extremely high, and clearing it is something to boast about. For Fourth Survivor, it notes that it's very difficult to clear, even if you use all your might. This document details the locations and contents of X files in Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2, spanning both front and back scenarios. The files offer background information on various characters, events, and organizations. Notable files include Robert's placed letter, referencing a samurai edge, Jill's memo, and Jill's report book, connecting to Biohazard 3 and the original game, and Chris's report book, detailing Chris's dismissal from STARS. Other files cover the G-Virus, company communication document, orders, Umbrella's activities, and the origins of Raccoon City, City Guide. Additional files such as research log regarding the progenitor virus hint at connections to Code Veronica, and the MA-121 report sheds light on William Birkin's experimentation beyond the G-Virus. This page provides tips for Mario Artist, Talent Studio, and SimCity 64. In Talent Studio, players can view President Yamauchi's greeting movie by selecting specific options upon starting the game. Sound effects can be triggered using A, B, and C buttons, with categories like dance and sports offering diverse sounds. Additionally, the staff role can be viewed from the title screen by pressing the B button or right mouse button. Leaving the game idle on the title screen showcases created talents in a demo. For SimCity 64, the page describes a method to start with $999,999 in free mode. Selecting random terrain, entering names, and inputting Sangha in the town name details. This provides ample funds for city building. This page is a Dream Technique page, highlighting tips and tricks for N64 games submitted by readers. It starts with Mario Artist, Talent Studio, providing secrets for the talent creation mode, explaining how to manipulate character features with the cursor. The next Mario Artist tip reveals that icons in the menu will react when the cursor gets close. Moving on, SimCity 64 is featured with a tip suggesting that naming your team Purple Sangha in any mode will supposedly increase your win rate. Another SimCity 64 trick explains how to zoom in on buildings by pressing the C button while in the window screen when examining buildings. Super Smash Bros. Is next, with a tip focusing on the Yamabuki City stage, where using an up plus B attack on Lucky, Chansey, will work effectively. Finally, for Puyo Puyon, the page details how to select characters and use the R and L buttons to access Carbuncle and Doppelganger arc hall variations. At the bottom, there's a large advertisement calling for submissions of Dream Techniques, offering various prizes based on the quality of the technique, ranging from a 10,000 yen gift certificate and an N64 game for the top prize, down to smaller prizes like gift certificates and special books for lower ranks. On the right side, there are instructions on how to submit these techniques by postcard, using Kirby 64, the crystal shards as an example, outlining what information to include in the submission. This page previews upcoming N64 games slated for release around 2000. RPGs highlighted include the highly anticipated Mother 3, Pig King's Demise, Super Mario RPG 2, Paper Mario, and Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. Action games feature Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, with its emphasis on accessibility and multiplayer, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, the sequel to a previous N64 Zelda title, is also previewed, close to release with imminent TV commercials. Gauntlet Legends is mentioned as a 4-player action title. Chanbara Fighter is a fighting game with unique puppet characters. Finally, Resident Evil 0, Biohazard 0, an N64 exclusive prequel starring Rebecca Chambers, is previewed. The page includes genre abbreviations and directs readers to page 112 for 64DD information, and recommends the Rokudori catalog for software information. The upcoming N64 software catalog features diverse titles. Super Black Bass 64, a fishing simulation with Suricon 64 controller support, is slated for summer 2000. 64 Wars, a war strategy game, is on hold. Flight Simulator, based on the Harrier 20001 game, faces uncertain release. Panel de Pon 64, a puzzle game developed by Nintendo of America, is in development. Nintama Rantaro 64 Game Gallery, a puzzle game based on the anime, arrives April 14, 2000, with a bonus card set. Perfect Dark, a first-person shooter, is delayed. Daikatana, a first-person shooter, is due March 31, 2000. Viewpoint 2064, a shooter game, offers 3D graphics. Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition and Bass Rush, both fishing games, are planned for March 31 and April 28, 2000, respectively. Ultra Baseball Real Name Edition 64 has an uncertain future. JIKU Powerful Pro Yakyu 2000, a baseball game, is planned for spring 2000. This page previews upcoming and overseas Nintendo 64 titles. Notable Japanese releases include Edi Yusuke's Mahjong School, a mahjong game, the unreleased Excitebike 64, and Slip Biwa Radio. Disc, the long-awaited Wipeout 64, Rev Limit, delayed for years, Nushitsuri 64 on the Sea Breeze, a fishing game, and the intriguing Animal Leader, later known as Cubivore. Page. The page also highlights Japanese unreleased overseas titles, including Tetrasphere, a 3D Tetris, Ridge Racer 64, an N64 version of the racing game, the violent fighting game Mace, The Dark Age, NBA Hangtime, an arcade-style basketball game, the beat-em-up Fighting Force 64, and Battle Tank, a tank shooter popular in the U.S. This page is an advertisement for a Kirby mousepad. It's a prize campaign to celebrate the release of the N64 game Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. You can apply for this mousepad by sending in an application with unused postage stamps worth 1,000 yen. The deadline for applications is March 31st. This page showcases a reader prize giveaway hosted by 64Dream magazine. Featured prizes are Nintendo 64 consoles in clear blue and clear red colors, as well as a Game Boy Color. Game software prizes include Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, and Itoi Shigesato's Bass Fishing No. 1 Definitive Edition, which was exclusive to Japan. There are also bundles of various N64 and Game Boy games. Other prizes include Hobonichi Techo special stickers, a copy of Mac Fan Internet magazine signed by Shigesato Itoi, a Mother 2 soundtrack CD also signed by Itoi, and his book, Fishing Life with Signature. Rounding out the prizes are a preloaded Game Boy memory cartridge, an American-made vibration pack for N64, a Pokemon-themed GB mini carry bag, and a Pokemon collection file. Readers can apply by sending in an application postcard with their desired prize number and product name before the deadline of April 20, 2000, with winners announced in the July issue of 64Dream magazine. This is a reader survey for 64Dream magazine, seeking feedback on a recent issue. It asks about readers' opinions on the cover and articles, including favorites and least favorites from two tables. Table 1 lists articles from the current issue, while Table 2 highlights anticipated future N64 game releases like The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, and Perfect Dark. The survey also asks about readers' hobbies and television viewing habits. Additionally, the page announces winners and prizes for a March issue giveaway, which include a Midnight Blue N64 console, Game Boy Color, games, and accessories. This page announces the June issue of the 64Dream magazine will be released on April 21st. Priced at 490 yen. There is a nostalgic Mario comic strip, reminiscing about 15 years ago Mario. The next menu section previews the next issue, promising a Majora's Mask director interview, information on a new Mario sports game, and appearances from Kirby, Power Pro Kun, and Itoa-san. The editor's voice section contains various editor notes, with some brief mentions of N64 and old magazines, but mostly personal reflections. At the bottom are images of past magazine covers featuring games such as F-Zero X, Star Wars, Battle for Naboo, and possibly Bomberman 64. This page is an advertisement announcing a new addition to the Nintendo Stadium series, referring to it as a brother. The page also mentions the magazine's May issue being on sale for 490 yen, released on the 21st of each month. There are teasers for the next issue, including a Strongest Brothers Birth commemoration project. Additionally, there are adverts for MYCOM as a source for Nintendo game information, and a Hiro Waza N cheat dictionary guide covering Game Boy, Nintendo 64, and PlayStation, promising 5,000 game catalogs and 6,500 cheat techniques, priced at 990 yen, released at the end of March. This page showcases 64, which is known as Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards internationally, for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's new Copy Ability Mix feature, where combining two abilities creates new powers. The page encourages players to suck, spit, copy, and power up. The release date is mentioned as March 24th, Friday, and the price is 6,800 yen, excluding tax. The game is described as an action game for 1 to 4 players, with Rumble Pack support and backup functionality. Screenshots show gameplay with Kirby, and various characters like Ribbon, Adelaine, and King Daredevil. There are also snippets of text promoting other features, but the main focus is on Kirby 64 and its release details.